Thank you, media. So, what's the question? Oh, the summit, yes. So, yes, about preparedness for the Africa Climate Summit, we are very much on course. As of this morning, we have confirmations of about 20 heads of state from Africa and beyond. We have a total of persons registered for the summit at 18,700. And I'm sure right now it's higher because it keeps going up by the hour. So the summit is basically a forum convened by His Excellency President William Ruto as the coordinator of all African heads of state on climate change issues within the AU. So the summit is being co-convened by Kenya and the AU. And despite this being an African climate summit, as it goes by the name, it is global because we have invitations from across the globe. Because one of the main thing that we are proposing is global climate action solutions, specifically profiling Africa as part of the solution to the climate crisis. For a long time, it has been Africa, the vulnerable continent, and it is true because we are disproportionately affected by the climate crisis. We are also disadvantaged because we contribute the least to the pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, but we suffer the most. But what the summit is coming to do is to say that we cannot continue to just cry and say we contribute the least and we are the most affected. Those are facts that we can do very little about, but what is it we can do? What we can do is to say Africa can come in as part of the solution to decarbonize the world. How? We have untapped resources in Africa, and this is across the continent. We have renewable energy, we have valuable minerals, we are the only continent with available land for agriculture. We are also the continent where we carry the biggest lungs for the world in terms of the forests and natural resources, and creating the space for carbon sequestration. So all these resources are lying untapped in Africa. Yet, if met with the capital that Africa doesn't have but the rest of the world has, if they bring their capital here, then we can push for a green growth agenda using our resources. If they bring their innovations, we can be able to push for a green growth agenda. That is number one. Number two, through the summit, we are also saying the climate crisis has gone to unprecedented levels, and yet we keep going from one COP to another as we keep sinking deeper into the crisis. So it means there is something that is not sufficient with the processes that are ongoing, and one of them is the financial flow on climate action. We are saying that the financial systems are ridden with unfair processes of how the finances are deployed. There are questions of equity on how the finances are deployed, and it is time for Africa to call, as we call for attention for the world to come and invest in Africa. And we are saying for our critical minerals, instead of exporting them for value addition outside of the continent, let the technology and innovation come here and we exploit them here in Kenya. But now that cannot happen without sufficient financing. And then again, the statistics are showing us that the debt burden that Africa is carrying currently is that we have a big percentage of countries in Africa that are all going to a debt distress situation. And the financial mechanisms at the global level are not sufficiently responding to prevent African countries from going the full-blown debt distress. And with debt distress, countries are having to choose between spending all their effort to repay debt and thinking about the welfare of their citizens. So Those are the two critical things. And here we are with the Committee on Environment from the National Assembly. We are going to have participation of everybody across the board, the Council of Governors, Parliament. Everyone has their space. We are just from discussing the Climate Change Act and the need to amend it to provide for carbon trading and carbon markets so that we create an enabling environment for investment, also create the integrity and the transparency required in terms of benefit sharing. And that is one of the things Kenya is going to showcase at the summit. So really appreciating the support of Parliament in pushing this through, and that is all.
Labda swali la mwisho tu waziri. Tumeshuhudia vita vya binadamu na wanyama mbuga ambavyo vimekuwa katika kaunti ya Kajiado, labda kufuatia mabadiliko ya hali ya hewa na anga, labda mmeweka mikakati gani kuhakikisha kwamba hatushuhudii tena vita vya binadamu na wanyama?
Tukipunguza mambo ya climate change, it will sort with the whole issue about conflicts, because we will restore our natural resources, including water. We will have the normal flows of water. Unajua vita dhidi ya wanyama wa pori na binadamu, saa zingine ni mambo ya maji, mambo ya ukosefu wa chakula kwa mbugani, so they come to the farms. So this climate action is supposed to cure all that. Asanteni sana.
More Radio 88.2 FM. We are in charge.